This episode of Talking Smit About Film is brought to you by 29.6 degree heat. It is ridiculously warm at Smit HQ today, so it's just a case of get the reviews done, get this podcast over. Let's go for it, shall we? It's 7 o'clock, it's Friday night, it's Talking Smit About Film. God, that intro's a little out of date, isn't it? Look at me with a fancy mic on. Hello and welcome to Talking Smit About Film, the flagship podcast from me, Jack Smit Ventures. I'm Jack Smit. It's an honour and a privilege to be back live. All of the reviews are live this evening, which is going to be pretty fun. Especially in this heat. It is just gone 7 o'clock on this Friday, the 29th of May. It is a busy week of the Jack Smit podcasts. Not only do we have Talking Smit tonight, but we also have Rip Ticket on Sunday, and it's going to be a good one this week. I can just feel it. You know the drill by now. We have two films to review this evening and the film news rundown, so it's going to be a little bit shorter than usual. No big discussion this week. But we do have plenty of ways for you to get involved with this little live show. And of course, a big welcome to all of our live viewers watching on YouTube as this is recorded. It's become a tradition now. We've got a big plan in place for next week because it's, you know, the whole year anniversary of the podcast. Here are all the ways you can get involved. So you can use the hashtag TalkingSmit on Twitter, where you can tweet your questions, your correspondence, reactions to the films, all of that sort of thing. You can do the same on Facebook as well. That is facebook.com/SmitOnFilm, where we stream Rip Ticket every Sunday. If that's any consolation. We also have Instagram now, @SmitOnFilm, where we will post images, behind the scenes, all that sort of thing. And of course, YouTube live chat and podcast at leejacksmit.com. We've got plenty of ways for you to get involved with this humble little podcast that's been going for a whole year as of next week. How did that happen? So, I have forgotten the running order for this week because it's been quite a last-minute scramble to actually get this podcast right. I know what our first review is now, and it's a review that one of our executive producers has been calling on me to do for a very, very long time, and you are actually getting this before it goes out on leejacksmit.com. I've not actually done the write-up for it yet. In 1992, it was a year after View Preston opened, a film came out that shocked the world because of reasons, but also because of Sharon Stone. And, well, I really need to introduce it much? On the insistence of my very good friend Mr. Ed Greenberg, and I will not be surprised if he's watching this because I told him I was reviewing it yesterday. Good lord, this is so not safe for work. This is the trailer for Basic Instinct.
We got 31 stab wounds.
What was it?
Ice pick.
I'd like to speak to Miss Catherine Trammell, please.
Is she a suspect? She's a suspect.
I wanted to write a book about the murder of a retired rock and roll star.
You know how she does the boyfriend? With an ice pick.
She intended the book to be her alibi. I picked him up, then I had sex with him.
You didn't feel anything for him, you just had sex with him for your book.
In the beginning. Then I got to like what he did for me.
You like playing games, don't you?
It's nice.
You've got no physical evidence.
She's lying. What's your new book about?
A detective. He falls for the wrong woman.
What happens?
She kills him.
Stay away from her. You are out of control, Kurt.
You won't learn anything I don't want you to know.
She knew I'd say she did it, and she knew that nobody would buy it.
She is screwing with your head, Nick.
She knows things about me that I only told you.
How does it feel to kill someone?
You tell me.
I think you got too close to the flame. I think you liked it. You're in over your head. She seduces people.
business, wasn't it?
She manipulates people.
Freeze! How much did she pay you? You wanna play that? Come on! She knows where I live and breathe.
Games are over, Nick.
Well, that trailer had 1990s written all over it, didn't it? Basic flavour of the film, although let's be real, you all know the plot of this film incredibly well. A violent police detective investigates a brutal murder that might involve a manipulative and seductive novelist. This is a very graphic film. It's an 18 for very good reason. The BBFC have kind of insisted that it remains an 18. And we all know this film thanks to one certain scene. And it'd be wrong for us here at Talking Smit About Film not to use that clip as the actual crux for our review here. This is a Paul Verhoeven film, a very sexually charged film. And here is a clip.
Would you tell us the nature of your relationship with Mr. Boz?
I had sex with him for about 1.5 years. I liked having sex with him. He wasn't afraid of experimenting. I like men like that. Men who give me pleasure. He gave me a lot of pleasure.
You ever, engage in any sadomasochistic activity?
Exactly what did you have in mind, Mr. Corelli?
You ever tie him up?
No.
You never tied him up.
No. Johnny liked to use his hands too much. I like hands and fingers.
You describe a white silk scarf in your book.
I've always had a fondness for white silk scarves. They're good for all occasions.
But you said you like men to use their hands, didn't you?
No, I said I like Johnny to use his hands. I don't make any rules, Nick. I go with the flow.
Did you kill Mr. Boz, Miss Trammell?
I'd have to be pretty stupid to write a book about killing and then kill somebody the way I described it in my book. I'd be announcing myself as the killer. I'm not stupid.
We know you're not stupid, Miss Trammell.
Maybe that's what you're counting on to get you off the hook.
Writing the book gives you an alibi.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? But the answer's no. I didn't kill him.
Do you use drugs, Miss Trammell?
Sometimes.
You ever use drugs with Mr. Boz?
Sure.
What kind of drugs?
Cocaine? Have you ever fucked on cocaine, Nick? It's nice.
Jesus Christ, that Cummings fellow gets everywhere, doesn't he? 260 miles to Durham now between Sharon Stone's legs. Live podcast listeners, you will have no idea how long that took to censor the scene. Unfortunately, we had to because some stupid YouTube guidelines. Oh my god, that tickled us at Smit HQ. This is a very unique film. A lot of people ripped into it when the film came out in 1992, and I can understand where they came from. It's not the greatest film in the world, but it does get a lot of things right. In a way, Verhoeven's direction, it's a relatively okay paced 2 hour, 8 minute film. Could have done with a few minutes chopping here and there. But it's very well directed. There are a lot of conventions of the whole erotic thriller genre. There's a lot of the... It's a hard film to describe when you've not actually written the review for it yet. But it's a neo-noir erotic thriller. Paul Verhoeven directing it, and he's made some pretty middle of the ground films over the years. He works to a script from Joyce to Hearst. And the script, it's really well written. for a 1992 film. It's still, the script really does still hold up. And I went into this last night not knowing the full details of this film. Like I mentioned at the top of this review, it was Ed Greenberg who recommended this film to me, and somewhere right now he's got a smug grin on his face, thinking, "Yes, I subjected Jack to that." But it's an okay 2-hour, 8-minute film. The script, it's good. Direction, it's okay. Nothing special from a technical front. But when you add some of the other ingredients to this mix, when you add that iconic Jerry Goldsmith score, which again you heard in the clip, pioneer is all you need to say. Absolute pioneer of blending orchestral and other sort of different types of music together to create something unique for cinema goers at the time. This is around the time when big bands were like still the big thing, and they wanted that crossover. It would be another 10 years before Hans Zimmer was on the scene mixing synths and all of these conventions that we kind of know now. And on top of that, you have Jan de Bont on cinematography duties. And Jan, for myself and Ed Greenberg, holds a particular place in our collective discussion, because I'm just triple checking it to verify this now. This guy was the director of the 1999 version of The Haunting. The DOP of Basic Instinct made a version of The Haunting that was bettered by a group of UCLan students last year. Hello to the feature team from 2018-2019. But this, from a technical standpoint, there are a lot of elements that get this film right. Everyone thinks, oh, you only watch this film because of sex. There is more to this film than just that. And where this film really does come alive are in the performances. You've got Michael Douglas, you've got Sharon Stone, you've got Jean Tripplehorn. You've got some really good performances, and in the case of Douglas and Stone, they make these characters feel really believable, really fleshed out. Yes, it does get a little bit far-fetched towards the end when things go down, and I don't want to spoil it too much for anyone who hasn't watched the film. When things go down and you realise, oh God, she may not be the person that we've seen at the start of the film, you realise that this could be like the ultimate deception. And I know they made a sequel to this movie in 2006. It was horrific from what I've read, so you won't be seeing me review that on this podcast anytime soon. But Basic Instinct was a film that tanks of 50 Shades could fly. Because let's think about this critically for a minute. Basic Instinct got away with a lot for an 18 certificate back in 1992. Without that film rewriting what it was to be an R-rated film, an 18 here in the UK, we wouldn't have that big insurgence of people thinking, yeah, what can we get away with at 18? What can we do? Effectively, this film, if it had failed, we wouldn't have had something like Gone Girl hit cinemas. That's an interesting thought for me, because this film, like I say, it's not the greatest of films. It's going to get a 3.5-star review on the blog when it goes out at some point this weekend, between this podcast going out and Rip Ticket airing on Sunday. But this film, controversial it might be, it still holds itself up pretty well. And I was discussing this with Ed last night on one of our infamous sessions of the video game Borderlands, because we live a rock and roll lifestyle, I do that kind of thing. But Basic Instinct is a film that just gets it incredibly right on so many levels, but at the same time it's still ridiculously cheesy. I can only give this film really a should be watched. Is it coming through? As you can tell, it's been quite the hectic day here at Smit HQ, but it's a should be watched kind of film if you are in that kind of thing. So in a minute for you guys watching on the podcast channel, we're going to go back live because we're going to restart the stream on my end. And we will return with more Talking Smit About Film shortly. Stay tuned, everyone. Well, that happened. That actually happened. Sorry about that, live viewers. Obviously, Studio Canal don't want us to review any of their films on a live broadcast, so they got their way, and you'll be able to hear the full Basic Instinct review on the podcast channel later this evening and on the actual audio version of this podcast over the weekend. So sorry about that, technical issues and YouTube getting in the way, and we censored that clip and everything. Right, yeah, Basic Instinct is a should-be-watched kind of film. Now I really do want to get this podcast over and done with, just for my sanity. It is now that time of the show where we look at what's broken in the last 7 days, and a little thing that we call the Film News Rundown. What's broken, you ask? Well, we got the news that Sonic 2 is in development with Paramount. It's a film that was unexpected in terms of its box office success when it came out in February. Obviously, it got out just in time before COVID screwed everyone over, which is very good. And again, I've not had a chance to watch it yet. We might have a review for it soon, though. Hint, hint. Speaking of things screwed over by COVID, Cineworld have announced that they plan to reopen all of their cinemas in July, come what may. That includes the Regal circuit over in America. Bold, risky move, but apparently they're following the science. So, again, unsure as to what's happening there. Production news. There's a lot this week. Martin Scorsese's new film has been picked up by Apple. It's a massive film to finance. Why am I not surprised that Apple have put money into this thing? It's a film that has really gone above and beyond in terms of budget, and after Irishman tanked, yeah, I can understand why. Tom Cruise will reunite with Doug LeMan in a couple of years' time to make a film in actual outer space. NASA gave it the approval last week, and it's the most Tom Cruise film imaginable. Come on, let's not argue about that, really. Other news, David Ayer has called for his cut of Suicide Squad to be released, obviously following the footsteps of his colleague Mr. Zack Snyder. Because, of course, last week we got the news that the Snyder Cut is real. I rewatched Justice League for the first time since cinemas on Wednesday morning. And it was a real interesting ride to watch it again, knowing what's happened. Other news as well, Venice Film Festival is scheduled to go on as planned in the middle of September. It's the first concrete confirmation from any festival as to what the plan is for getting them all back on the road. And one last thing that's going to be getting back on the road, we actually have news of movies returning to production. Fox have announced that James Cameron's Avatar 2 will resume production on Monday. This is a big deal. This is one of Disney Fox's biggest propositions for the next couple of years. This could sway 3D back. This could be the killer film, because cinemas will be back open by then. This could be the film that really does get people back in cinemas. And that is your Film News Rundown. Ooh. I'll tell you something, guys. This has been the podcast from hell. It is now... it's coming up on nearly 30 degrees in here at the minute. So, I'm not going to bother risking having to restart the stream. So, if the stream goes down a second time, we will just continue recording this podcast and we'll stick it out on the secondary channel at a later point. Our second review this week is one that I actually have done a write-up for. A couple of years back, Odeon had a strand called Screen Unseen. They still do it, but not so much now that they're closed. And one of the things that Screen Unseen does incredibly well is introduce you to films that might not have got your attention first time round. And what I love about Screen Unseen is these films are always super unique, super bold, and something that is, well, arguably about loving movies too much. It's a film that got underlooked. It's a film that not many of you have heard of, but it's on Amazon Prime, and I want to review it. This is the trailer for Bart Layton's American Animals. Have a look at this.
You ever feel like you're waiting for something to happen? That thing that could make your life special.
Yeah. Like what?
Exactly.
Through these doors, John James Audubon. His book is the most valuable in existence.
$12 million in rare books, and only one old lady guarding it.
What?
I think you know what.
My heart beats in patterns to the broken sound.
This is your red pill or blue pill moment, my friend. You're either in or you're out.
How can I tell you if I'm in or I'm out without you telling me the first thing about what I might be in or out of?
Aren't you even curious?
Well, yeah, prison would be a nice change of scenery.
The librarian is the single biggest risk to this entire operation.
Can you please not touch the model?
Thanks. I don't want you waking up 10 years from now wondering what could have happened. Let's go!
Come on! You guys are sending us to jail, you idiots!
You're the only one that can calm me down.
Can you stop? No, I'm not stopping until it's burned. Look, it's evidence. Thank you.
The year is 2004, and this is a film that is based on real events. 4 young men mistake their lives for a movie and attempt one of the most audacious heists in American history. Film 4 put money into this movie, and when Film 4 get involved with a movie, you know that there is a certain hallmark of quality attached to it. It's a very unique kind of film, directed by a man who until that point had made documentaries. And these 4 guys, these 4 university students, college if you're American, these 4 students, they really get into their movies. And the way this film blends real life and filmed entertainment is quite unlike any film I've seen. Here's a clip of the lads meeting each other for the first time.
Names first. Eric, Mr. Black. Spencer, Mr. Green. Mr. Yellow is me. Chaz, Mr. Pink.
Fucking really, dude?
What?
You're making me Mr. Pink?
What? What's wrong, Mr. Pink?
You know exactly what's wrong with Mr. Pink, okay? I'm sorry, can I just say how dumb this entire thing is, okay? Because in the motion picture, the whole point of the names was so that nobody knew what the others were called, so they couldn't give each other up.
Relax, okay? It's just protocol so we don't address each other by our names during the robbery. Okay? Mm-hmm. No names. Mr. Pink.
It's fucking ridiculous, man.
And they all die in the end of that movie.
Spencer was Mr. Green because he smoked lots of green. Eric was Mr. Black because he said his soul was black. I was Mr. Yellow because I was my mom's sunshine. And I named Chaz Mr. Pink just to fuck with him.
I'm not gonna be Mr. Pink. I'll be any color but pink.
It's probably my least favorite Tarantino film.
Okay. Housekeeping first. Mr. Green, you will see to the disguises. Makeup, prosthetics, outfits, wigs, etc.
Costume party? Making a movie.
Mr. Black, your first task is to find a reliable getaway vehicle. A Ford or similar, nothing flashy. which you will purchase using cash and a fake ID.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Pink, your first job is to identify the quickest route from the library to the drop-off point here.
And then practice it over and over again until it becomes second nature.
minutes, 18 seconds, mostly green lights.
Mr. Yellow, that's me, of course. I will make the authentication appointment in New York
for the weekend immediately following the robbery, meaning that even if the books are reported missing, they won't yet show up on the National Index of Stolen Art.
Once we have the authentication, we will arrange a rendezvous with the buyers in the Netherlands. Dear sir, my name is Walter Beckman. I am a collector of rare manuscripts based in Texas. I would like to arrange an appraisal of some of the items in my collection.
Now, I have emailed the library to make an appointment to view the books on the penultimate day of term. That's 8 days from now.
And that is basically the plan for this heist. The almighty Screen Unseen return with a bang on the day I sing this film. And myself and a big chunk of the great men and women who make up the internal production team of the Journal packed out. It was a different screen at Odeon. Packed out screen one. It was a little bit smaller. It was a very unique heist film, and it was worthy of that Screen Unseen label. It was so damn good. Now, Bart Layton, as we mentioned, has been behind a few documentaries before he made this film. His direction is very daring for a movie like this, clocking in at a tight 1 hour 56 minutes. This film wastes no time in introducing us to the characters as well as the real people. As you can tell from that clip, intercut your four actors with the four people who actually did this heist. It doesn't mince any detail at all. This is quite a divisive move, and it's a move which ultimately paid off, as Layton's own script was able to keep that tension running throughout the whole thing. It was such a well-crafted film in terms of the direction and script combination. You do not get those movies kind of often. Mainstream audiences will have issue with the way this film is stylized, because there's like so many movie references here and there. There was a moment quite about, I'd say about 40 minutes in, where the cover for the film Rafiki, a VHS tape of Rafiki, is in shot. And around the time I watched this film, Mark Kermode had just done his first series of Secrets of Cinema, and he mentioned Rafiki, and I watched American and I was thinking, oh my god, Kermode mentioned that as one of the heist films that set the conventions of the genre. So I can understand why those lads would have watched that film intently. And obviously, there's a Reservoir Dogs reference. You sit in the clip. It's obvious to see where they got the ideas for this heist from, and dare I say, dressing up as four old men. What an idea. But this film is a breath of fresh air. You've got cinematography handled really nicely by Ole Bratt Birkeland. The score from Anne Nicholson is really good, and the soundtrack, oh my god. There were moments where I was like, how have they got the licenses for some of these songs? Although, one nitpick I have to mention, is they credited, there is a sequence which I would have used for the clip. There was a sequence where Elvis's A Little Less Conversation is used during the film as they rehearse the heist. And they credited the wrong version. They accidentally credited it to the Junkie XL remix. And I know these things, because if I was presenting a radio show nowadays, I would have played the Junkie XL remix of A Little Less Conversation as a show open, because it's such a tune. And Junkie XL, by the way, is Tom Holkenborg, you know, the guy who did the music for Mad Max. Hot and fresh science fact. But this is a really strong technical film. And this is where you bring in the cast. Evan Peters of American Horror Story and X-Men fame leads this cast with ease. And supporting him is Barry Keoghan, who audiences seen for the first time in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. He's a talent who's gone on to do some great things after working with the self-professed god of this industry. In Nolan we trust. But you've also got Blake Jenner, Jared Abrahamson. These four men are the sole reason this film works on so many levels. It is those four performances. Yeah, and you've seen it from the clip. It's so honed, so refined, and they're able to get even the small details of the characters that they are playing down to a point where it feels like you are watching this unfold. It's not quite the happy ending that we'd like, because obviously, true story, they go to prison. But what this film does so well, is open up the possibility that these guys haven't really told the true version of the story. Because they deliberately, in this film, leave some details to be a bit ambiguous. And they literally use this as ammunition towards the ending of the film. Because they mentioned the whole verification meeting in New York. It's revealed that that might not have actually happened. This is a film that may have flaws. This is a film that may not have a cast that you can recognise straight away. But it is a solid piece of work. And I repeat, a solid piece of work that was worthy of the Screen Unseen label, which is one thing and one thing only. We're going to show you a damn good film that will get you talking. And that is something that Screen Unseen with Odeon, they've done that time and time and time again. Although the less said about the fact they played Strangers Pray at Night. We're live, pal. The fact that they played Strangers Pray at Night on the horror version, Scream Unseen, it gives you an idea as to the sort of agreements that they have with the distributors. It's more about testing out films that they know won't play well nationally. And it's a shame that this American Animals didn't get a saturation release, because it deserved to be seen when it came out. When it came out, the nearest cinema to me playing it was Liverpool 1. View didn't get it. Odeon Preston didn't get it. Home in Manchester got it, and Home are a cracking cinema. Do not get me wrong. But I would have liked to have seen more of the conventional multiplexes get this film. A remarkable film at that. And it's not just due to the absolutely insane nature of this story. This is a rare heist film that breaks with conventions to create something that is genuinely unique, breaks new ground for the genre, and not only that, gets the whole character motivation premise right. I loved this film, and it is a shame that not many people love this film as much as me. This is a definitive go out and see it now kind of film, because there isn't much you can really say about a movie like this. See it, see it, see it, see it, see it. So, that's both of our reviews done in the space of 35 minutes. It's been an interesting stream tonight, but we will edit it together and we will stick this out on the podcast channel. Obviously, without the basic in-sync clips. But there is one little plug that we've got to do before I launch into this week's big discussion, because we are going to do big discussion. We're running really good on time tonight. As a lot of you will probably know, I do a second podcast with my very good friend Dan Carver, and this week, it's going to be good on Sunday. This week, Dan has given the reins over to me to research and prepare this week's Ripped Ticket review topic. And I might as well reveal it right here on Talking Smit About Film. I'm just loading in the thumbnail now, because as well as movies, I do watch a bit of TV as well. I mean, it'd be wrong for me not to. I do watch a bit of TV. I mean, I watched that Brexit, the Uncivil War, out of spite on Wednesday. I wonder why. But this week's Rip Ticket review is, it's about this fella. It's about Edgar Wright. It's about the TV series he made that directly resulted in the creation of Shaun of the Dead and the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver. Oh, and I forgot to mention this in the film news rundown because it broke a little late to be considered. We now know when his next film will be out. It'll be out April next year. Last Night in Soho. He's making a horror movie, and I'd love to see where that opening sequence from episode 3 of Spaced, you know, the one where Simon Pegg's character plays Resi 2 and the zombies attack. Yeah, I'd love to see how he's worked something like that into a movie. But yeah, Last Night in Soho is coming out next year. Cannot wait. But we'll be talking about Edgar Wright on Sunday's podcast, and you can watch that over on Facebook. Actually, I don't need to say that because we've got a trailer to do that for us. In a world where film podcasts solely focus on multiple films and multiple stories, what else do you need than two blokes who used to present a radio show talking nonsense about film? The Rip Ticket Review is the new podcast from myself, Jack Smit, and my very good friend Dan Carver, former presenters of Pulse Radio's Rip Ticket show. And every Sunday, we get together online and talk nonsense about the infamous films, the infamous directors, and the tales that make these things interesting. We've looked at things like The Room.
I got the results of the test back. I definitely have breast cancer.
It's about as bad as the scene later in the film. How's your sex? We've looked at things like Uwe Boll's inability to make a good video game movie.
Uwe Boll, a German director who didn't understand computer game movies. One might argue that he is kind of like Tommy Wiseau in that he did his own thing, but yeah.
There's a minefield here that we can really go down with Uwe Boll. We've looked in depth at the whole coronavirus effect on the film industry, and we're only just getting started. You can watch the podcast being recorded live every week at facebook.com/The Rip Ticket Show. You can follow us on Twitter at ripped_ticket. You can email us using ripticketshow@gmail.com, and you can find the audio on all good podcast providers, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and basically all your favourite podcast merchants, really. The Rip Ticket Review. We talk about movies in an attempt to make you sound more knowledgeable at the pub. When they eventually reopen, that is. Had to fade it down because we know the pubs aren't going to be open for a little while yet. Although we are going to be allowed to have 6 people in our gardens from Monday. That's going to be good. Right, big discussion. And I'm going to be talking about this topic with a very good friend of mine and, well, Journal co-producer Jenna Nettle tomorrow, because I'm going to be on a Zoom call with her. Can cinema survive COVID? That is now the big question. All of the chains are now starting to announce their plans for the reopen. Odeon have been quite coy in their strategy yet. Cineworld, literally out of nowhere, announced on Wednesday that they will reopen all of their cinemas globally. We mentioned it in the film news rundown, but this includes America, Israel, the UK and Ireland. Every cinema they own is going to open in July, regardless of what everyone in government says. That is a bold move on Cineworld's part. I don't know if it's going to pay off because they are a chain in big financial trouble as it stands. So are Odeon, actually. Odeon's owners had to take out $500 million in debt just to get through the crisis. We also have, well, we have hints and indications from View that they aim to open July 4th in time for Marathon, which makes me happy because July 8th, we've got plans for that. In fact, we can next week. Bit of a scoop. We're announcing the plans for the marathon next week. It's going to be very different this year, believe me. But View have announced that they will. We're all getting ready to reopen, but it's going to be a very different cinema experience to what we know. It's going to be half capacity, compulsory masks and gloves for staff, perspex screens at concessions, a lot more prominence for booking on the app, and extended opening hours, but beginning later in the day, dying off late at night. I am literally bracing myself, harsh as it may sound, for a similar kind of quality service that I received at my local View to the one that we had during the refurbishment 3 years ago. Limited opening hours, limited amount of screens open, limited range of concessions, but without the element of it being a construction site. Instead, there are more temperature checks and probing questions. But we have to ask a question. Is it too soon to be reopening cinemas? I know they want to get opening back in time for Tenet, because it's a $200 million film. They've got to make some profit back somewhere. But there have been a lot of discussions, both on Twitter, here at Smit HQ, out in wider society as well. Is July too early to reopen the cinemas? And most importantly, do the exhibitors want to let Disney have the first film back? Because there is some unwritten tension in the air. It's the reason why Warner haven't really confirmed what's happening with Tenet just yet. Because if they move Tenet, that means Mulan becomes the first film back, and then it follows Wonder Woman a week after. It is really all to play for in this environment. And with the rise of streaming services, obviously HBO Max launched in America on Wednesday. Literally being promoted during wrestling shows, I find. There were promos for it during AEW Dynamite, I read on Twitter. But with the rise of HBO Max, with Peacock launching later in the year, Netflix getting more traction, obviously Disney Plus literally rebuilding its content management system so they could give us episodes of The Simpsons in original aspect ratio. That's a true story. Anton Volkov's Twitter has been like a minefield this week for these kind of stories. It's been a really interesting ride for the cinema chains because they don't know how they're going to last, and it's accelerated the rise of premium video on demand and day-and-date releases. We will get back to a sort of normality where the big screen experience is king, but right now, public trust is the big thing. If they can say that, oh look, this cinema is safe, they'll go to it. If there's good quality product coming in, they'll go to it. They won't watch the same films week in, week out, just because that's all they can get. It's going to be an informed choice for the chains when the all clear is given. And I don't know how this could play out. The recliner sites will do well. The recliner sites should do well because they're literally being billed as premium out of home now. But it's going to be the older multiplexes that I don't imagine surviving. Obviously, I have very close ties within View, got some connections within Odin. I can't speak for Cineworld, but I don't see any chain running anywhere near 100 cinemas in 6 months from now. Some older sites are going to have to go, unless they're not mid refurbishment. That is, because refurbishments are going to be the king. These refurbs are the recliners, the bars, the hands concession offers, which they're going to have to rethink all of that now, just to make sure it's all COVID secure. Lame guideline, I know, but I really don't know if I'm going to feel comfortable going back into a cinema in July, which explains why we've planned the marathon the way we have. Shameless plug. But of course, Showcase are literally reopening, and on top of that, we got the news in from America. I think it was yesterday from America. The first IMAX showings have been undertaken since it all kicked off, and that chain are insisting on the masks. And those masks could hit concessions revenue considerably. We talked about it in last month's journal. Concessions are where cinemas make 80% of the profit. So they have to adapt concessions. They've already said that, look, we're going to serve concessions in pre-prepared containers. Pick and mix is basically done away with for the time being. And for the sites that have self-service, including my local, we're screwed. We really are screwed. It's going to be an interesting ride for the chains over the next couple of months as they adapt their operational practices, and even writing a master's about this industry, which is going to kick off in October. I've insisted I start in October. Writing about this industry, as I have done for the last couple of years, it is the most challenging thing that the cinemas have ever faced in over 100 years. And not on top of that, this is the first time that multiplex cinemas at all here in the UK have been ordered to close since the Second World War. This is unprecedented territory, and I don't want Netflix to have the upper hand. It's all good having films day and date, but you don't physically own the films, and they're built to be seen in surround sound on big screens with a nice cup of Earl Grey in your hand. Not available at all sites, but you get the point. This could either hurt cinema in general, or it could give us the reprieve that it needed. We just have to hope for the right film to get the industry back on track. And I am excited to get back into view when that moment happens. As you can tell behind me, I spend a lot of time in there. But as it currently stands, there's no way that the majority of the general public will want to go back into a cinema. Hell, a lot of us are even scared to go outside right now, even with the ability to see 6 of our mates as of Monday about to come in force. But right now, it is literally time to band together, with a study that came out last week saying that independent cinemas may not make it past September. Now more than ever before, the slogan for the blog has never been more evident. Born Independent was created last year to put the spotlight on the cinemas that need it the most. More than ever, you watching at home, watching on your phones, need to support your local cinema, because the time is now. Prepare yourselves, not for a second wave, but for a resurgence of the greatest art form in the world. When it's safe to do so, we will be back at View Preston. And with a little over 10 minutes to go for our allotted slot, that is almost it for this week's Talking Smit About Film. Apologies for the brief technical issues during a Basic Instinct review. YouTube shut us down, but we will have that review in full on the Lee Jack Smith podcast channel. For our live viewers, we will have the Basic Instinct review on the podcast channel in full later this evening. Do not worry. So, let's tell you about next week, shall we? Because next week is genuinely massive, because it is the 1 year anniversary of Talking Smit About Film. It is a huge one. I mean, I know the anniversary is not until the 7th of June, but next week we celebrate 1 year of doing this podcast. It started as an accident, and now we've been streaming live on YouTube every week, and it might potentially be the last stream on YouTube for a while because of what's happened tonight. We shall see. But we've got a few surprises in store for next week. We will be on at 7 p.m. and it will finish around now, 7:55 p.m. for very good reason. Because I know a lot of you have been doing pub quizzes lately. Pub quizzes on Zoom, Skype. You've taken part in Jay's virtual pub quiz on a Thursday. I've seen all that sort of thing. Even though we're usually on a Thursday night, I've seen that sort of thing. Next week And I can't believe this managed to slip by copyright so easily. Next week, we've got our own version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire dropping. And it's not a conventional Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because it's about film, and specifically, it's about the blog and some of the key moments that have happened over the 7 years that I've run LeeJackSmith.com. And it's 15 questions, very interactive. So at the end of each question, you'll be presented with 4 answers. They'll flash up on your screen like it does at the end of a journal. You'll have 4 options. You can click tap on them. I can tell you that 60 individual video files were rendered for this thing. 60 of them. And I had to match the wrong answers' duration with the right answers. It was worse to make than doing a wipe. That tells you everything. It was worse to make than doing the 2019 wipe. And that is just genuinely insane to me. But next week, you'll have Talking Smit About Film and the journal within 2 hours of each other. And also next week, if the trailer can get finished in time, during Talking Smit About Film next Thursday night, we're going to be announcing what's happening with the marathon this year. Because, as I've mentioned, as I've hinted, it is going to be a very different birthday marathon this year. Namely because, well, cinemas are still closed. But we're going to make it happen. In some way, shape or form. But anyway, I've rambled for too long now. My name's Jack Smith. That has been Talking Smit About Film. Let me ramble for a little bit too long now. Until next Thursday at 7 p.m, we will see you at the movies. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next Sunday. Oh, Sunday for Rip Ticket. See you then, guys.
Thank you.